This week on Vaticano, we look ahead to Pope Francis' 8th Consistory that will take place on August the 27th, where the Holy Father will create 21 new cardinals. For Father's Day, we hear from Monsignor Pietro Bongiovanni, a priest of the Diocese of Rome, on the important role fathers have in the family and in society at large. And join us for this month's edition of Roman Nights on Faith as Family, as we approach the 10th edition of the World Meeting of Families in Rome. For this and more, Vaticano starts now.
Als Gemeinschaft, die jeder Gesellschaft vorausgeht.
On the eve of the International World Meeting of Families, a German symposium was held in Rome under the title Family, Germ Cell of Society and Church in Miniature. At the event, held at the Patristic Institute Augustinianum, speakers included the German philosopher of religion, Hanna Barbara Gehl-Falkowitz, the journalist Birgit Kelle, the Bishop of the East German Diocese of Görlitz, Bishop Wolfgang Ippold, and Stefan Kampowski, a professor of anthropology. The symposium was organized by the Societas Theologiae Ecclesiasticae, which belongs to the German association Fundatio Christiana Virtus e.V. The experts spoke about the various threats that face families today. The sexual revolution of the last century has led to a separation of sexuality and fertility, and the effects are felt everywhere. That man and woman are different is a gift of God and quite natural, the speakers underscored. More and more governments in Europe are undermining the natural concept of family through LGBT campaigns and the introduction of so-called same-sex marriage. At the same time, state subsidies seek to declare abortion a human right, and there are attempts to take parenting away from parents and give it to the state. In this dangerous climate, it's important for the Church, as an advocate for the family, to become more involved in pastoral care for the family. This was emphasized several times by the experts at this symposium. Church workers, especially priests, need to help families, and conversely, Catholic families can help priests. Both vocations are important not only to the continuity of the Church, but also for the continuity of civilized society. The organizers of the symposium now hope that these themes will also be explored in depth at the World Meeting of Families, which will be held in Rome from June the 22nd to the 26th.
In 90% eine gute Familie.
Last May the 29th, after the Regina Coeli prayer, Pope Francis announced an extraordinary consistory. On August the 27th, he will create 21 new cardinals, 16 of whom will be cardinal electors. Among the 16 new electors are 6 Asians, 4 Europeans, 3 South Americans, 2 Africans, and 1 North American. At the end of August, the total number of cardinals will be 229, of whom 132 will be voters, who in a hypothetical conclave will be called to gather in the Sistine Chapel to elect the new pontiff. The geographic distribution of cardinal electors will be from Europe, 53, Latin America, 24, Asia, 21, Africa, 17, North America, 14, Oceania, 3. Of these 132 cardinals, 83 were created by Pope Francis, 38 by Benedict XVI, and 11 by St. John Paul II. An increasingly international college of cardinals is on the horizon, targeting the Asian continent and putting less of an emphasis on Europe.
Hello, and welcome to this week's Vaticano Updates, bringing you the most important news from the Holy Father and the Vatican. Pornography is a threat to public health, and it should be denounced as a permanent attack on the dignity of men and women, Pope Francis said. It is not only a matter of protecting children, but also of declaring pornography a threat to public health, he told members of a family association network. The papal trip to the African countries of the Democratic Republic of Congo and South Sudan, originally scheduled for early July, has been postponed for health reasons. At the request of his doctors and in order not to jeopardize the results of the therapy that he is undergoing for his knee, the Holy Father has been forced to postpone with regret his apostolic journey to the Democratic Republic of Congo and to South Sudan, Vatican spokesman Matteo Bruni said. Ursula von der Leyen, European Commission head, visited Pope Francis in Rome and discussed the Ukraine war. The Holy See Press Office said that both parties focused on the good bilateral relations and common commitment to work to bring the war in Ukraine to an end, dedicating particular attention to the humanitarian aspects and the food consequences of the continuation of the conflict. Pope Francis commented on the progress of the reforms of the Second Vatican Council, particularly as it relates to the liturgy. The Holy Father told priests and bishops from the Italian island of Sicily to be strong moral guides and to update their art investments in conformity with church reforms. The Catholic Church has been the target of 190 attacks and desecrations in less than 4 years in Nicaragua, as well as police harassment and persecution of bishops and priests under the regime of Daniel Ortega, the country's president, a new investigative report shows. It also says that the regime of Ortega, who has governed Nicaragua since 2007, initiated an indiscriminate persecution against bishops, priests, seminarians, religious, lay groups, and towards everything that has a direct or indirect relationship with the Catholic Church. Thank you for watching this week's Vaticano Updates. I'm Hannah Brockhouse for EWTN Vaticano.
Father's Day in the United States is celebrated on the third Sunday in June. This year it falls on June the 19th. On Father's Day, we remember all the men, living and deceased, who gave of themselves for their families. Pope Francis often reminds us of the exemplary role model and patron saint of fathers, Saint Joseph, foster father of Jesus, husband of Our Lady, and patron of the Universal Church. The Holy Father also advocates for men to answer the call to fatherhood, saying men to exist, to become complete and mature, need to feel the joy of fatherhood. When a man does not have this desire, something is missing in this man. It's like an incomplete life, a life that stops halfway. The grace of fatherhood, of giving life to others, of pastoral paternity, of spiritual paternity, is a gift from God. Ahead of Father's Day, and with the Holy Father's advice in mind, we spoke to Monsignor Pietro Bongiovanni, priest of the Diocese of Rome and rector of the Sanctuary of San Salvatore in Lauro, on the importance of fathers in the family and in society at large. Monsignor Pietro Bongiovanni oversees marriage preparation and has worked with countless couples as they navigate the journey from dating to parenthood. We also asked him to discuss St. Joseph and how his witness has shaped our ideal of the role of the father.
Il ruolo del padre oggi è fondamentale perché la nostra è una società orfana.
The role of the father today is crucial because we live in a fatherless and motherless society, so we are really in a bad situation. Why fatherless? Because nobody wants to take responsibility for a yes or a no. Everything goes the way it wants to go, doesn't it? A father must have the characteristics of responsibility and strength. We have to take up this concept again. The strength of what? The strength to stand on his own, to be a reference.
La forza di stare sul suo, di essere riferimento.
Don Pietro emphasizes the importance responsibility has in the role of fatherhood and how its protective weight balances the couple and confirms the child.
Padri, dovete essere nel vostro ruolo responsabile.
Fathers, you must be men. This is fundamental. You must be men. The end and bottom of it all. Responsible. On the role of motherhood, mothers should be the image of tenderness. Everyone thinks of their own. If you had a healthy and happy mother and a healthy and happy father, a father gives you direction, and a mother makes you grow in the love of her kindness. When you combine these two elements, you feel safe as a child, and you grow and grow well. So, fathers, today more than ever, you have a fundamental responsibility in raising your children.
Il padre oggi più che mai ha una responsabilità fondamentale nella crescita dei figli.
We asked Father Pietro to explain how St. Joseph continues to provide that ideal for fatherhood that men have strived and continue to strive to imitate. And we asked him to give us concrete and practical qualities that he embodied so that we can learn from his example.
San Giuseppe, ecco, è l'immagine di come deve essere un papà.
St. Joseph in the image of how a father should be. To start with, St. Joseph was obedient to God. Joseph is a strong man who assumes his responsibilities. He leads the game, if you will. Mary knows that she can count on him, in times of joy as well as in times of trial. Joseph is hardworking. He is not a lazy man. He is not an adolescent. He is mature, aware of his responsibility and living it to the fullest. He put bread on the table, if you will, raises his son and accustoms him to his responsibilities. And then Joseph is a man of prayer and meekness, of tenderness and patience, and the model to which one should refer to and pray to in order that mankind discerns the role of the Father.
E va pregato perché aiuti l'umanità a riscoprire il ruolo del padre.
This Father's Day, may we turn our eyes towards St. Joseph, and as Pope Francis said in his apostolic letter, Patris Corde, each of us can discover in Joseph the man who goes unnoticed, a daily, discreet, and hidden presence, an intercessor, a support, and a guide in times of trouble. St. Joseph reminds us that those who appear hidden or in the shadows can play an incomparable role in the history of salvation. At a symposium in Rome on the topic of the family, several experts from Germany spoke about the role of the family in today's society.
Die Befreiung von der Natur,
On the sidelines of the event, Martin Rottweiler, director of EWTN Germany, spoke with German philosopher of religion Hanna Barbara Gerl-Falkowitz.
Im Jahr 2022, in dem wir sind,
In 2022, there will be another World Meeting of Families, an initiative that came from John Paul II, who cared a lot about the topics of marriage and family. From the perspective of a philosopher of religion, what is the significance of marriage and family?
Familie.
Ich könnte gleich von Anfang an sagen, dass es
I could say right from the start that it was a particularly brilliant idea of Pope John Paul II to deal with the family in this way. Of course, one expects that from the Pope, but the fact that he put such a clear emphasis on it is quite great. He understood quite a lot.
ganz großartig, das heißt, er hat ganz viel verstanden.
Johannes Paul II. Ist ja von der
John Paul II started from phenomenology. He looked at the phenomenon of the human being, the phenomenon of human love, also of corporeality. This concept of the theology of the body is important. What can be determined phenomenally, or in the phenomenon of the body of man, the body of man, the body of woman?
feststellen.
Ich unterstreiche nochmal, dass
I underline once again that a pope who reflects on the subject of the body is also, in a certain sense, a novelty. Phenomenology has the unbelievable advantage, and John Paul really worked with it, that by looking wisely, that is, not simply looking in the sense of taking in at random, but by looking wisely and interpreting what one sees, one can already find a good way into the depth of an understanding of the world.
und letzten Endes können wir eben auch schon fragen,
And at the end of the day, we can already ask, what does fatherhood mean for men, purely phenomenally? And what does motherhood mean for women, purely phenomenally? The moment when a culture does not ask these questions at all, feminism has given away the question about the motherhood of the woman. It is not asked. We consider the phenomenon of the woman actually already in a certain reduction. Sooner or later, this takes revenge, because the moment we do not perceive something in its comprehensive entirety, the forgotten or suppressed part comes back with force at some point, and then, of course, as a punitive task and no longer as just a task. I think that if we really learn to read phenomena again, we will take on a very grateful task with it, namely to really take seriously what expresses itself in our body.
Wir haben in der Anthropologie, wenn man das mal...
We have in anthropology, if you take that as a big term, of course we have a share of biology. Why not? Where do we start if we don't start with biology? Of course, man is not only a biological being, of course not. Already an animal is not. An animal has a biological imprint, but an animal has learning processes, has adaptations. A dog can grow up with a human, takes on strange traits that it would not have in the wild.
haben würde.
Wie kann
How can a restoration of marriage and family succeed?
sozusagen das gelingen?
Die Botschaft heißt nochmal von der Kirche aus.
The message is again from the church. You alone, you forever, and from you a child. Just say that. You don't have to justify it. This statement will be understood immediately, even if it generates opposition. But as long as I don't say that, as long as the alternatives are always there, it doesn't work. But if you say that to young people, they will understand that this is good. Even if they don't comply right away, it doesn't matter, but they understand it's a good thing.
Aber dass es gut ist, das wird verstanden.
Vielen Dank nochmal.
Thanks again, Professor Golfakowitz.
Sehr gerne, vielen Dank.
EWTN's Vatican Bureau held on its terrace on June the 15th its most recent edition of Roman Nights, focusing on the future of the family in light of the 10th World Meeting of Families, to be held in Rome at the end of June. EWTN Vatican Bureau Chief Andreas Thonhauser moderated the panel, featuring Virginia Coda Nunziante, founder of the March for Life in Italy, Vincenzo Bassi, president of the Federation of Family Forums of Europe, and Don Giovanni Biallo of the Opera Romana Pellegrinaggi. Don Walter Insero, head of communications of the Diocese of Rome and spokesperson for the Vicariate, welcomed the event and introduced the topic of the meeting.
Buonasera a tutti.
Good evening, everyone. I'm happy to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you to all my friends from EWTN. Thank you to the operators who will soon face this family-themed event. In 1 week, at this time, we'll have finished the opening ceremony of this 10th World Meeting of the Families. So, let's feel the adrenaline, enthusiasm, and excitement for this event that is about to begin.
Per questo evento che sta per iniziare.
It's so important to share this experience also with other families, especially if you are a person of faith. It's not something so easy in our society to live that way. It's kind of strange already, right? I think even the Holy Father had to say that children are never an ecological problem. And I mean, even the notion, and I welcome that very much that he did so, but even that you have to say this, right? To live in a society where people do consider children as a problem for the environment is a very telling thing. And so to have, to come together also here in Rome with other families who are living that kind of life is very encouraging and very, very important.
The fact of having families that also quite often also split, it's because of the woman's role. So I think if we don't go back to the role of women in society, which should be at the core of the family, it will be difficult in effect to change things. And also because we know that family is the pillar of society. This is also in ancient Greece. It was already said, Aristotle, Plato already spoke about this. So we know this is not something only from a Catholic point of view. So I think that we Catholics, we should give an extra importance to families because we have also the faith. But nevertheless, family is really important for everybody. So the fact that our our politicians don't understand this. Quite often I think that there is an ideology behind that. And last thing that I say is that I remember very well to have followed in a private, a closed-door meeting with the German Minister of Education, of Culture and Education, during the Merkel government. She said, and I was quite impressed by that, she said, we don't want families, we want individuals. They don't want families because the individual is much more easy to govern.
In Europe, as the Pope even on Friday said, there is a huge problem. This problem is the demographic winter, the very low birth rate. So now there is a unique occasion to speak. Let me say the demographic winter is like a Troy horse. The problem of the demography winter is a fact, and we have to solve this problem. In Europe now they want just to manage the demographic transition, but you don't solve problems just allowing people working until 80 years old, just because they can push one button. So you have to solve this problem, and they cannot solve the problems, as Virginia said, without families.
The family is a school of fraternity, is the place where to learn to love and to live in peace, to help the other brothers and sisters in their needs, in their necessities. And so spiritually the families need to discover the love of the Lord and to show the face of the love of the Lord. That means mercy, that means help, that means recognizing the others like a part of themselves.
The Roman Nights events, hosted by EWTN's Vatican Bureau, bring people together in and around Rome to reflect on matters of faith and life. This particular iteration brought together many of the great minds in Rome, serving the Church in the hopes of making the 10th edition of the World Meeting of Families that will be held in Rome a unique example of the Christian witness brought forth through the family.